What up, my St. Louis City fam? I'm your girl Kelly, here to give you the rundown on what happened in St. Louis City government this week, and I'm gonna get right into it with these highlights, y'all. So, the first highlight: redistricting. Yes, now basically we pretty much in the playoffs, y'all. So what's the update? So this past Saturday, there was yet another public hearing for St. Louis City residents to provide feedback on, I believe that was the fifth version of the drafted map for the city of St. Louis. And so, following that public hearing, also apparently the legislation committee, some of the members, my understanding is that there was review of those comments provided this past Saturday. And so they reconvened on Monday to kind of discuss the map, the small tweaks that were changed, and also discuss kind of like what the next steps are with regards to this process. So, there were a few tweaks made to even things out with regards to some of the numbers in these kind of new proposed wards. So a little bit tweaked here or there. And again, something that has been expressed consistently. The chair of the committee, Volmer, he said, and I quote, "This has been the most number of maps shown to residents during redistricting ever." So, yeah, so what's next? So they still need to figure out how to number these wards, because if you look at the map, they're lettered, right? And so once they figure out how they're going to go about numbering it, they're going to make sure to do it in an extremely public way, because they want everything to be super, yes, y'all, you know what word I'm about to use, transparent. Yes, that part. And they also want to involve neutral parties as well in the process, because they don't want to hear none of y'all out there, talking about and accusing them of doing anything shady or doing anything slick. They don't want to hear none of that from people. So they're going to be really intentional about, again, making it transparent and involving people ain't got nothing to do with any of this stuff, because they don't want to hear nothing from the public, basically. So Alderwomen Navarro Martin, they did express some concerns since the city councilor's office, they haven't conducted their legal analysis yet on, I guess, what is considered now kind of like the final version of the map. But Reed said that he wanted to wait until the most final version of the map was available, and to send it to the city councilor's office so they can do their thing instead of sending them, these multiple versions. So now the city councilor's office, they have the map, and they will have their legal analysis for it in time for the legislation concerning the map to be perfected by the full Board of Aldermen. President Reed, he asked the legislation committee to pass the proposed legislation regarding the map out of the committee with a due pass recommendation to the full Board of Aldermen. And they did that. So they passed it out of committee with a due pass recommendation to the full Board of Aldermen. And during yesterday's Board of Aldermen meeting, the bill, it was second read. So again, with the holidays and everything, it seems that President Reed is hopeful that that will be enough time for the city councilor's office to look at the map, provide their legal analysis in time for the bill to be perfected, and that's when changes and things can be made if need be to make it as legal as possible. So yes, y'all, we almost finished with redistricting. The second highlight I wanted to mention, is regarding Board Bill 19, sponsored by Alderman Vaccaro, which, if passed, would establish a detention facility oversight board in the city of St. Louis. And this piece of legislation, proposed legislation, it was up for perfection during yesterday's Board of Aldermen meeting. And this detention facility oversight board will consist of 9 city residents and would oversee basically the jail. So this board, this oversight board, would serve as an advisory body to the mayor, commissioner of corrections, and the director of public safety concerning facility operations, conditions of detention, and division of corrections policies. This board would also be authorized to receive and investigate complaints of alleged corrections misconduct and detention incidents, and make findings and recommendations regarding division of corrections policy and procedures, employee professional development, as well as employee disciplinary action. So, yeah, I told y'all the board bill number was 19. So this bill's been out there for hellas, y'all. I think there was mention of the bill being like in the public safety committee since May. So if y'all remember me talking about this before, it's not deja vu. Yes, this bill's been out there for a minute. And so why has this bill been in committee for so long? I mean, to be honest, Vaccaro's fellow alder people in the committee really felt like the legislation, the wording, the fiscal information, there were some things that really needed to be tweaked and cleaned up before it was passed out of the committee. And so even when the legislation was passed out of the committee, they said, yeah, we're going to pass it out, but, in hopes that you work on getting this legislation together, bruh. And so this bill was up for perfection by the full Board of Aldermen yesterday, and similar sentiments were echoed by other alder people, expressing issues with just cleaning up some of the language, and just making it the best bill that it could be. So Alderwoman Gracia asked Vaccaro, she was like, hey, bro, will you consider moving this bill to the informal calendar so, we can work on the bill, and then we can make sure that it is not only perfected, but finally passed. Vaccaro said, hell to the no on that. Nope. And when other people were providing him with suggestions and questions and all that, he wasn't having none of that. He said, look, and I quote, we're sitting around and people are getting raped, beat up, and killed. And he's saying this bill, it needs to move now. It's been sitting back here in the wings long enough. We have to act because it's too much going on, and we have to do something to make things better with the city jail. So there was a bit of back and forth, but ultimately Vaccaro, he got enough votes to get the bill perfected. And then the last highlight I wanted to mention this week really is a board bill to watch. So Board Bill number 139, which is sponsored by Alderman Todd, and if passed, it will require the Land Reutilization Authority, also known as LRA, of the city of St. Louis to maintain at its cost and expense the premises of all LRA-owned properties and the exteriors of any structures, and that any structures be maintained to comply with any and all applicable provisions of the City of St. Louis building codes. So I'm definitely interested in this piece of legislation because there's a lot of LRA-owned properties out here that are really bringing down the block. Like, stuff, it just looks trash. So I'm going to be peeping this bill to see if it passes. Because if it passes, that would be holding LRA accountable to maintain the properties that it owns. Rounding it out with the legislative corner, y'all. So there were 3 pieces of legislation passed this week that I kind of wanted to lift up. So Board Bill 113, which sponsored by Alderwoman Davis, passed, which authorizes the City of St. Louis to issue its taxable industrial development revenue bonds in an amount not to exceed $60 million. And yes, this is one of several pieces of legislation related to that new redevelopment with Target and the 196 apartments. Another bill that was passed this week, Board Bill 132, which was sponsored by Alderman Orion. It repeals some previous ordinances pertaining to the possession of marijuana and paraphernalia, and it updates local enforcement priorities, probable cause, and reasonable suspicion standards, and disciplinary standards to harmonize city policy with the Missouri State Constitution. And then lastly, but certainly not least, there was a resolution passed unanimously out of the Board of Aldermen that renews the mask mandate within the city of St. Louis for another 30 days. So that's all I have for y'all this week. Please have a happy and safe Thanksgiving. You'll see me soon. Peace.